Hello, hello, happy Sunday. It is late July, I guess, second to last weekend of July. I think we've been doing this for about 20 episodes now, so this is a lot of fun. You'll notice I'm back out in my beautiful backyard. My garden is doing well. We're going to be doing a grilled flank steak today and a California Caprese salad. And the only reason I call it a California Caprese salad versus just a regular Caprese salad is because I use avocado, and I think that's kind of a California thing. It's like avocado toast, but avocado caprese. Anyway, let's get started. I've got my grill going already. So I've got some coals in here. I didn't use too much because I don't want to waste coals, and I don't need very much. I only want enough to kind of heat up the surface so that I can sear the steak. Now, if you follow me on Instagram or on Facebook, you will have seen that we got our marinade going a little bit earlier today. Let me switch to that cam. And we've got our steak marinating. Mine's been going for about 4 hours, 4.5 hours. And I just mixed all the marinade ingredients together, put it in the fridge, and let it sit. You can go up as long as 12 hours. I wouldn't recommend going very much longer than that. The steak just kind of gets a little bit mealy. Usually 4 to 8 hours is best. If you didn't marinate it, it's fine. It just adds a little bit extra depth of flavor to the steak, but you're not going to have totally ruined dinner if you didn't have a chance to throw the marinade on it earlier. Let me go ahead and we'll do this. There we are. So assuming you have your steak marinated, we're gonna go ahead and get it ready. If you didn't get your steak marinated yet, we're just gonna go ahead and get the steak on the grill. And then what you can do is, while we're doing our caprese and while we're kind of cooking down our marinade, you can mix all of those marinade ingredients together. So the ketchup, the vinegar, the molasses, all of the spices and the salt and sugar and everything. Just give it a good mix, pour in the beer, give it another good mix, and then you're gonna cook that down just until it gets a little bit thicker, and then you're gonna be using that to coat the steak. But let's get started with this. So I've got my steak in the marinade here. It's been, again, marinating for about 4.5 hours. And let me see if I can do this where y'all can see it. Let me move the caprese plate out of the way real quick. I get some of these things out of the way as well. So what I'm going to do with my steak is lift it up out of the marinade here and just be gentle, because you'll get this stuff all over the place. And I just want to basically let it kind of drip as much as I can. I've just got that brush there holding down the paper towel so it doesn't blow away. I'm going to slide this over onto the paper towel. I do use paper towels for this because I'm just going to throw them away because they've got steak and all kinds of other goober all over them. But I just want the steak there for now. And I've got my grill uncovered right now, letting the coals kind of heat up these grates right here. The more airflow you get, the hotter the coals are going to get, and the faster they're actually going to burn. So I want these grates right here to get super hot. We're going to sear our steak over these coals right here. So just keep that in mind. That's why I have this open. And I'm going to put this over here. With my marinade, all of this sauce, I'm going to pour it directly into a sauce pot. And again, try not to get it all over the place. We'll see how well I do here. Now, since we've been marinating our steak in this sauce for the past 4 hours, or however long you've had it marinating, it's got bacteria in it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to cook this for at least, you want to get it up to a boil and then let it simmer for at least about a minute. I like to simmer it a little bit longer than that. I like to simmer it for like 5 to 10 minutes. Because what it'll do is it'll actually kind of thicken up and reduce down, and that's what I want. And then the plug that I've got this guy plugged into is beeping at me, so I'm not sure what that is. Let me know if the stream quality goes down or if it starts getting choppy or anything like that, just by putting a comment in the chat box. And I'm not seeing any chat, so I'm wondering if anybody is seeing it and just not talking. I'm gonna do a real quick look and see. It looks like it's working, so I assume you all can see what's going on. And I've got an induction grill here, so this is gonna start boiling pretty quick. I get my steak up here, and I'm gonna dry off the top part of it. Again, using more paper towels. I like to use cloth towels if I can, but if I'm just going to be tossing the towels or if they're going to be contaminated beyond what I would like to, wash, paper towels are usually best. Now, in order to get a good sear on the steak, we've gone over this a couple times, you really want the surface to be as dry as you possibly can get it. So that's kind of what I'm going for here. And a really nice dry surface, and the bottom should also be nice and dry. There we go. And now what I'm going to do with the steak here is I'm actually going to season it. I know we have a bunch of seasoning in the sauce itself, in the barbecue sauce, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a little bit more seasoning here. You don't need to go super heavy on the salt or the pepper because you've already got some in the seasoning. And I've got some wind going on, so I've got to kind of move my hand to make sure the dusting is going well. Awesome. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Cindy. I'm trying to keep one hand dry and one hand touching the steak. There we go. Got a little bit of extra pepper on here. And a little bit back on the other side as well. You see my sauce is starting to bubble over there, so I've got my eye on it, just kind of keeping an eye on it. Pat this down a little bit. Now what I'm going to do with my steak is I'm actually going to use my brush and brush a light coating of olive oil on the top of it. This is the same brush that I'm going to be using for the sauce later. You just want a really light coating. This is also going to help you get some nice grill marks on the steak. And you're brushing some of the pepper off, but the salt should have been absorbed already. You don't want a super thick coating of olive oil, you just want a light little film. I'm just going to coat it like so. Give this a little bit of a stir to kind of get those bubbles to go away. And what I'm really looking for is just for this to kind of start simmering. It more or less is. Right now I could turn down the heat, but I'm going to let it go a little bit longer here. My steak I'm going to get on the grill. And here's a quick little trick for you. Let me switch over to the grill view. So I've got this side super hot because it's been sitting over the coals. I'm actually going to flip it around like this. And I'm going to put the steak on the super hot side. And my sauce is starting to kind of bubble over, so I'm going to take it off the heat real quick. Put it back down. I'm going to put my steak over the super hot grate on this side. You're going to hear it start to sizzle. Oop, and there goes my sauce boiling over. Keep an eye on that. So this is sizzling, and it's actually cooking on this side. You're getting your nice grill marks on... Let me turn this down. You're getting your nice grill marks over on this side of the steak, and you're not causing any flare-ups. So I'm going to let it sit here for about a minute, and then I'm going to turn it back around. And what that's going to do is it's going to start the oil searing and not cause any major flare-ups. So nice little tip for you. If you're using a grill that you can't spin your grates around on, maybe have, like if you're using gas, you can just turn those burners off real quick, set your steak down right over where the burners were, and you'll get the same effect, and then you can turn the burners on after another minute or so. If you're using a charcoal grill that doesn't have a grate that you can kind of spin around like this, you can always just set it over the coals, or maybe set it like adjacent to the coals so that you're not getting flare-ups and things like that. There we go, and I'll spin it back around. And I like to just kind of push it down and make sure that I've got good contact on all of the grates, all of the grill pieces, so that we get those nice marks on there. When I'm searing, I leave the cover off because I don't want to cook the steak. I just want to get those marks on there, and I want the coals to be going as hot as I can get them. Let's switch back over here. Cool, so we're basically done with the steak. We can set this aside, and we can start working on our caprese. You'll notice my grill here is dirty because it's got goober all over it. It bubbled over. Somebody just sent me a Facebook message, but I can't read it because it's on my camera. So let me switch over to here. All right, cool. So, doing well. I got this down low. I'm actually going to turn it up a little bit and just try to get a simmer on the sauce before we start working on our caprese. And 250-ish, 245-ish is about where this should start simmering. We'll go up to 260 and see what we can do. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a fresh tomato from my garden, and we'll get our caprese going. Let's see, do we want to use a Chef's Choice orange, or do we want to go for a Chef's Choice black? The orange ones look really good. Pop you off. I'll grab a Chef's Choice black as well, and then we'll just choose which one we want to use. This one looks good. Ooh, and I've got a Golden Jubilee as well. I'll grab all three of them. We'll see what we want to do. All right. Here we go. We got our 3 tomatoes. Now the moisture on the board isn't steak sauce or steak goober. It's from the mozzarella cheese, so I'm not setting tomatoes down in steak. All right. This is simmering away. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my steak. Getting some nice marks on it, but I'm going to keep it right there and let it cook a little longer. Let's get going on our caprese salad. So I've got these tomatoes fresh from the vine. Got a nice little bowl of water here. I can give them a little rinse. Get some of the pollen from outside off of them. I'm also going to just kind of pull off the stems. Ooh. Left my cloth towels inside, so I'll just reuse one paper towel for all of this. So this is a Chef's Choice black, a little darker red tomato. Looks really, really nice. Golden Jubilee. Supposed to be a yellow tomato. Looks almost a little bit orange. And then my Chef's Choice orange, which is supposed to be, I think, even a darker, like neon shade of orange. Almost came out yellow. That's fine. I mean, they all taste delicious, so who cares what they look like, right? Hey, Michael, what's up, man? How's your back feeling? I know you were not having a good time on Friday. Give these guys a nice little rinse. You guys might be able to see my dog behind me. Hey, stop it. Don't dig in there. Get out of there. Digging up my tomato plants. Go ahead and get those guys off. Get this out of the way. You can see my sauce over here is simmering really nicely, cooking down. We're going to jump back over to the steak real quick. Give it another checkup. Looking good. Not getting any grill marks on it, probably just because of the sauce. So don't worry too much about that if you're not getting grill marks. You're still going to get a really tasty and well-cooked steak. As far as the caprese goes, just going to start with my plate that's got some of the salad on it already. I like to put a bed of arugula down, and I find that arugula gives it a nice little peppery flavor, so you don't have to use as much pepper on the actual veggie part of it. And let's see, which tomato should we use? How about we use a little bit of each? We'll start with the black. I'm going to cut up by the stem here. I'll just cut through. And I'm going to make this about a 1/2 inch thick slice. So like that. We'll set him down. I'm probably going to go like 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So I'll have a 3-part salad. And actually, what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do yellow, 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 red, yellow. Cut down here. Get most of the stem out if I can. Again, cut this about a 1/2 inch thick. So let's do this. I'll put the yellow right here. We'll put the red right there. Put you guys over there, and then we'll put the orange one on the other side. There we go. Another half-inch-ish thick slice of tomato. There we are. Now at this point, what I like to do with caprese, I always season my tomatoes. Hey, how's it going, Kier? Season your tomatoes, it'll bring out some of the flavor, give it a nice little flavor, for lack of a better term. And at the same time, I try and season some of the arugula, because that's usually the part that most people miss, and it just kind of starts tasting bland. You don't want a ton of salt on there, but just enough to give it a little bit of extra flavor. Get my tomatoes out of the way here on my cutting board. You really can't beat fresh tomatoes from the garden. Now, on top of the tomatoes, we're going to start putting our mozzarella cheese. Sorry to the paper towel gods. Do that, I'll set you right there. I always find the flat side of the mozzarella, if you're using like a store-bought one that comes in one of those packages, and I'll use that to kind of gauge. And I like to cut this a little bit thinner than the thickness of the tomato, so maybe like a 1/4 inch. And try and make long strokes as you're cutting through, and you'll get a nice even slice of mozzarella. If you start sawing back and forth, that's when you start kind of like smashing up the mozzarella. It doesn't stay nice. Just kind of let the knife do its thing. Watch your fingers. And we're going to do the same thing. We're basically just going to go like layer here, layer here, and layer here. I'm going to slide this down so you can see the color of the tomatoes underneath. All right. That's getting built up nicely. I'm going to come over here and check on my steak again. That looks awesome. I'm going to go ahead and flip it. Let's give you a view of the steak. Didn't get super awesome grill marks, but you can see some of the grill marks. Now what I'm going to do is just make sure that the backside is pressed down firmly against the grate. And what I'm going to do is we're pretty much done with our sauce, so I'm just going to stop that from cooking. Now it is very hot, so it is definitely going to seem like it's really, really fluid and really, really liquid. As it cools down, it'll thicken up a little bit. You've cooked off some of the water from the beer that we added. I'm going to take my brush, and I'm just going to dip the brush into the sauce and give it a nice light coating on top of this cooked surface. We're going to do this a couple of times before we flip it. And what it's going to do is it's going to thicken up while it's over the heat. You're going to get a nice glossy sheen on top of this steak. You don't want to make it too thick, but you do want to get a nice coating. Now you're brushing it onto the cooked side of the steak, so if you put the brush back into the sauce, you're not contaminating it. This side has been cooked, the other side is now being cooked. So at this point, while you're brushing, you're all good. You're just getting some steak juice back into the sauce, but that's fine because it's cooked steak juice, which means that it's not going to kill you. Cool. Back to our caprese salad. So we've got our tomatoes, we've got our cheese. I'm actually going to season the cheese a little bit because a lot of times the mozzarella that you get in the packages is not all that great. As far as the flavor goes, this will actually help it a little bit. Not a lot of seasoning, just a bit. This is where I like to put on my cracked pepper, just because the black gets a nice contrast against the mozzarella. And then we'll go for our avocado. So we've all done the avocado bit. We're going to cut right down the middle and roll the avocado around. And there we go. Pop the seed off. At this point, you can just peel off the outer shell if you'd like, or cut it down the middle, makes it a lot easier. And then we're just going to cut this into nice thin slices to put on top of the tomato and the cheese. And I like to make the avocado slices even thinner than the mozzarella. So the mozzarella, like the tomatoes are going to be the thickest slices, mozzarella is going to be the next thinnest, and then the avocado is going to be the very thinnest. And then I like to just kind of dot it around. So find spaces for it to fit. Kind of play around with how it's laid down. Like on that, the curve of the avocado actually fits the cheese perfectly, so I'll just use that to my advantage. Maybe on this one here I'll do a full little avocado looking thing like that. And then I might put some around the sides like so. And then it really depends how I feel. Sometimes I'll go ahead and use an entire avocado. Like this one's a small avocado, I'm gonna go ahead and just use the whole thing. Sometimes I'll use half if I get a really big avocado, and I need to sharpen this knife. You'll notice if you cut the avocado, the skin down the middle, it's much easier to peel it off. We'll do the same thing here, just nice thin slices of avocado. And then we'll just kind of dot it around the outsides here. Now I'm not going to dress the salad until I'm ready to essentially sit down and eat, because the arugula will wilt really quickly, as will the avocados. It'll kind of get mushy in a bad way, not in a good way. That's good. And then I've got 3 slices here that chef's special. Perks of being the chef. I'm gonna go ahead and check on my steak. That looks good. I'm gonna flip it. So now we're back to the back side. And as the front side is cooking again, we're gonna go ahead and coat this with some of our barbecue sauce, Beerbecue sauce. Again, you don't want a huge amount of coating on here, but you do want to get a nice even layer. Now what's happening on the front side is all of the sugars and everything in the Beerbecue sauce are getting caramelized, and they're actually going to burn a little bit more, and it's going to add depth of flavor. It's going to make it really, really tasty. I'm going to add a little bit of salt on our avocado. Constantly season these salads. It just elevates the entire flavor profile of the salad. And last but not least, we've got our basil. Now it's a little warm outside, so the basil is starting to kind of wilt a little bit. Ideally, you'd have it in the fridge until you're ready to cut it, but in this format, I don't have a fridge outside. Roll it up like a cigar, and then just cut right through it, like so. And then I like to kind of play around with it to loosen it up, I guess. And then just pick it up and I'll sprinkle it down the middle, like so. And the California Caprese is ready to go. We got some extra basil. You can just kind of drizzle it around the sides if you'd like. I'll save this for later. And let's head back over to our steak. We'll flip it around. We're getting another layer of barbecue sauce on this side as well. So now we got 2 layers of barbecue sauce on the first side. We got 1 layer of barbecue sauce on the back side. I'm just gonna let this cook for about a minute and flip it again. You'll notice that your sauce is getting thicker. Again, you don't want a huge amount of sauce on the steak. You just want enough to give it kind of a nice glossy sheen. And then we're just gonna let that sit for about a minute. How's everybody's week going? You guys had a good week, good weekend so far? I've been having a great time. This cook-along stuff is a lot of fun. I'm having a blast. Hopefully I figured out the audio and video issues with the internet. So seems like everything is going smoother this time around than last time. But yeah, what do you guys got going on? Anything fun coming up this week? Next week? Switch back over to our steak. I'm going to give it another flip here. We're going to put a second coating on the bottom of the steak. So now we've got 2 coats of sauce on the top, 2 coats of sauce on the bottom. We're going to let the top cook a little bit longer, and then we're going to put a third on the top. And then we're going to call it done. We'll let it rest, and then we'll slice into it. Yeah, pretty easy cook along this week. Didn't want to go too crazy. Flank steak is kind of a staple of mine, something that I make fairly regularly, and Beerbecue variety is one of my favorites. It's something that I picked up from Chef John from foodwishes.com. So if you've ever watched him, he does an excellent job. I picked this up back in, I think, 2013. And fun story, I actually put a video together for him on how to make tabbouleh, and he featured me on his site for back in 2012. So that was a lot of fun. Featured me on his site and a link to my YouTube video. Ooh, yeah. Persian cucumber sounds great also on a caprese salad. Good idea. As far as dressing the salad, all we're going to do is extra virgin olive oil. Make sure you get a good extra virgin olive oil and some balsamic vinegar. And just very plain, very simple. That's usually the best when it comes to caprese. All right, we'll flip our steak over again. We're going to put one more coat, let it cook for another minute or so, and then take it off the grill to rest. There we are. And looking good. No audio. You should be getting audio. I'm seeing audio. Is anybody else not getting audio? Unfortunately, I can't hear myself, so I just have to kind of go by you guys. Let me switch over to my stream over here. See if I've got audio on myself. All right, so you can hear me on Facebook. I do prefer charcoal over propane. That's just me. It's easier for me to do charcoal. And I don't know why Cindy always has audio issues. Anyway. Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. All right, cool. So we've let this kind of cook on the backside again. If you really want, you can flip it over one more time. Give the backside a third coating of sauce. Nice thin coating here. Give it a flip. I'm gonna get my cutting board ready here. We'll just move this bad boy over to the cutting board and let them rest. Yeah, I like charcoal over propane. It's just easier for me, honestly. I like over the fire. Like, I can control the temperature a lot better this way for me. Propane, the knobs never work the same. If I put the same amount of charcoal, I know I'm going to have the same amount of heat. So I can control that based on what I'm cooking, how I'm trying to do something. If I want to go super low and slow, I can start it one way. Now, there's a learning curve when you're using charcoal for sure. So it's not like I picked up charcoal and the next day was doing amazing grilling with charcoal. It did take a little bit to kind of learn how to use it. But once you kind of get the feel for it, I think it's better. But again, it's really up to what you're gonna use, what's gonna work best for you. I'm gonna give this a couple of pokes. It feels like it's cooked pretty well. I'll let this rest for probably another minute or so. Grab this avocado peel, cough up the pepper that went down the wrong way. So today is my stepdad's birthday. Happy birthday, Tony. I know we had dinner last night over at your guys' place, but since today is officially the day, I figured I would wish you a happy birthday. I'm going to spin my plate around here so that when I slice into my steak, I can just kind of layer it on this side, and then we'll dress our salad as well. I also got to set up, we had a really nice umbrella that I just hadn't ever set up before, and today I decided to see if I could, set it up myself. Got it up. It's a huge umbrella, and it's perfect because it totally blocks the sun, so I'm not squinting at the camera this time around, which is nice. Also, I found a network cable that was long enough to go from my router all the way out here, so hopefully the signal and everything has been good today. I know everybody except for Cindy said that the sound was good and the video looks good, so hoping this is something that I can do on a more regular basis. All right. Ideally, you'll let your steak rest for 5-10 minutes, and that way when you cut into it, the juices kind of redistribute a little bit more, and it's not as tight. It has a little bit of a chance to relax, and then when you cut into it, it doesn't squeeze juice all over the place. Although, I don't think you guys want to sit around and wait for 5-10 minutes. I like to usually slice on the thick side first, just to make sure that it's cooked. And then if it's not, I can put it back on the grill, or if you're inside, toss it back on the oven. And then as long as the thick side is cooked, I will start cutting basically towards the skinny end. And then depending on how well you like your steak done, you can help yourself. So the thickest point looks like it's right here. We'll go ahead and cut into it. And steak looks perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a couple of thin slices. I like thin slices when I'm doing flank steak. Maybe 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch at the most. But, you all do you. Whatever you like. Do 4 slices, see how that looks, and then take it from there. I'm just going to kind of lay them out on the plate. Something like this. Might do one more slice here. I'll do the thick side. Like so. We'll lay it over like that for a little bit of contrast. Now, it's totally up to you whether you want to leave the steak plain like this and serve it this way, or if you want to drizzle it with a little bit of your Beerbecue sauce, like so. And I just forgot to bring a spoon out. Usually I would be using a spoon for this. And then this usually gives you a really tasty, juicy steak. You get the hint of all of the beer that you put in here, whether it's a malty beer like a Newcastle, or whether you used a hoppy beer like I did, Dogfish Head 60-minute or 90-minute, or whatever you want to use, whatever flavors you like, you'll get a hint of that in the barbecue sauce. And it's kind of fun being able to make barbecue sauce from scratch for yourself and not have to get, every other barbecue sauce. If you look on the shelves, if you actually go and take a look at some of the ingredients, they're all the same. They probably change the amounts a little bit, but the main ingredients are all the same. It's like tomato puree, vinegar. I mean, that's basically what we put in. We just use ketchup instead of tomato puree. Cool. So the dressing for the salad, I usually take a little bit of olive oil, and I'll drizzle that over. And I just put my thumb over the top of the olive oil, turn it upside down. It's not going anywhere. It's not drizzling. And then I'll just kind of slide my finger gently over until it starts drizzling. And then you can very easily control how much olive oil you put. And then I do the same thing with the balsamic vinegar. I usually go a little heavy on the olive oil because I think it adds a wonderful flavor. There we go. I always give my balsamic a little bit of a shake just to make sure. And then same thing, over the top, just put my thumb over, turn it upside down, nothing's coming out, and then just slightly move my finger over. Balsamic usually comes out a lot quicker than olive oil, so I'm a little bit more gentle with it. And there we go. California Caprese Salad, Beerbecue Flank Steak out on the grill, and we're done. Go ahead and make sure this doesn't leak all over the place. Again, if your sauce is a little bit too watery, you can let it cook for another 5-10 minutes and really let it kind of thicken up. And if you like it more watery and more like a sauce, you can totally just use it like this. I honestly don't mind how I get my steak. I prefer medium rare, more on the medium side. I know a lot of people really prefer rare steaks, and I know a lot of people who prefer well-done steaks. I feel like if you can cook a well-done steak and you can retain the juices, there's nothing wrong with a well-done steak. However, I prefer if it's medium, but I'm not going to cry if I get a steak that's been a little bit overcooked. I think it just tastes amazing anyway. So here we go. Glory shot in the, oops, camera up above me. Let's go this way. There we go. Caprese salad, Beerbecue flank steak, and this steak came out a little bit more medium than medium rare, but you know, sometimes that's life. Anyway, guys, hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, and hopefully you guys give this a try if you're not cooking along with me tonight. And go take a look at some of my older videos. They're all on YouTube. Just look up, you know, Robert Sogomonian on YouTube. You'll find cooking stuff. You'll find flight vlogs and things like that. More flight vlogs coming soon. And follow me on Instagram. And if you're not, I mean, you're probably following me on Facebook already, but look me up on Instagram at Syrix, P-S-Y-R-I-X-X. I post a lot of food, aviation, real estate, all kinds of stuff on my Instagram and Facebook pages. Anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. And I will see y'all next week. I'm not sure what we're cooking yet, but I'll try and figure that out by Wednesday and give you guys a little bit more lead time. The past 2 weeks have been super busy for me. So, but yeah, see you next week, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye.